Let's jump into this first story and just talk about what's been going on with these lockdowns. LA restaurants are forced to close amid rise in COVID-19 cases as California coronavirus hospitalizations hit highest point since March. The Daily Mail reports some LA restaurants that have prevailed through the pandemic lockdowns are now closing their doors as cases rise, mainly due to the Indian Delta COVID variant. It comes as they all see an increase in cases, and California has seen infections rise to 5,063 per day, or a 160% increase from 1,900. Wait, what is this? I'm sorry. From 1,946 2 weeks ago. Bottega Louie and the Village Idiot have posted on their Instagram pages about closing. The Village Idiot said it closed because a fully vaccinated staff member was diagnosed with the virus. At least 7 counties in California, making up more than half of the state's residents, are urging residents to wear masks indoors. California's hospitalizations due to COVID-19 have more than doubled in the last month, according to the LA Times. Now, you guys may have heard LA, they're doing mandatory masks indoors. Las Vegas is, we get this. On Tuesday, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot suggested she may make masks mandatory, like LA, as cases increase 164% in a month, from 34 per day to 90 per day. And they go on to say they're blaming this on Delta, but let me highlight something else. Mitch McConnell warns there could be lockdowns if Americans don't get vaccinated as the Delta variant continues to wreak havoc. I'm just going to come out and say, man, it is going to be incredibly difficult to convince people that they should get the vaccine if we're hearing at the same time they're planning lockdowns regardless of the vaccine. So whenever we talk about this stuff, you know what we say? Go talk to your own doctor.
Yeah,
you know what's really crazy though? We're watching all this stuff happen. There's a lot of stuff we'll get into in a minute too, especially with like the economy, Joe Biden's town hall. For some reason, it has now become, I guess, on the left, anti-vaxxer to say, talk to a doctor about what's right for you. So,
wow.
Yeah, so there was a post by Casey Neistat. Cool dude. Big fan, right? I've known him for a while. He's a cool dude. And he just put get vaccinated. And I said, no, talk to your doctor. Okay. He's like, don't be so absolute. Yes, you'll probably end up being advised to get a vaccine. I'm not saying don't get vaccinated. I'm saying talk to a doctor. A lot of people say like, oh, well, my doctor's not smart, or I don't trust my doctor. It's like, okay, get a better doctor.
Yeah.
If I invited a plumber to my house and I was like, my toilet's clogged, and he was like, I recommend smashing it with a sledgehammer, I'd be like, bro, are you a plumber or not? Like, I'm going to find a plumber who's going to be like, I will fix your toilet. You know what I mean? So anyway, look,
Right.
I said, go to a doctor, ask them, just 5 minutes, not even just, hello, doc, what do you think? Here's my age, here's my history. The doctor says, well, here's what I think. But for some reason, I am getting attacked by a ton of people who are like, that's anti-vaxxer. They're like, why be so dumb? It's actually against the rules on YouTube to tell people not to go to a doctor. This is the point we're at right now, where regardless of the news, regardless of what's going on with lockdowns, you have, I guess, vaccine zealotry of like, just let the strange man come to your door, knock on your door and give you a vaccine. It's like, well, yeah, but if they do, call your doctor and say, what do you think? Apparently that's bad now, I guess. That's where we're at.
Wow, it's crazy because you have these the government imposed lockdowns, right? And they said we are doing this for your benefit, your safety. But then they're taking away all of control. They're taking away your freedom to be able to go where you want and do these kinds of things based on this virus. And they're basically taking away your own ability to accurately judge for yourself, what the best thing is that works for you.
It's almost like, I don't even know what to say. I really don't. I was genuinely surprised because people responded to me and they were like, you're so dumb. Like I get inundated with these tweets where they're like, you're dumb. And they're like, the doc will just tell you to get the vaccine. And I'm like, so what's the problem? Like, seriously, here's what bothers me, right? We have the vaccine adverse event reporting system. All right. And they recently added more numbers to it. And there's like a 0.0036, I think it's 0.0036. I don't get the numbers wrong. YouTube will get mad at me. But it's like a very, 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 very low amount of reported deaths from INVERS. And okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, what if we could reduce those numbers by making sure that people talk to a doctor before they just went out to one of these, centers, or before they decided to get vaccinated? Yeah. Because let's say there's somebody who would normally have a counterindication or an allergy, and you've got all the celebrities in the world. You've got people like Casey Neistat, and they're telling people just go do it. And Casey's response to me was that he went to a parking lot, waited 45 minutes, stuck his arm out the window, and then they said, "Carry on, good sir." And I'm like, "Would you talk to a doctor first?" Like, I'm like, even at these places, they want you to fill out the form to make sure you don't have any allergies or anything like that. If we could get people to simply be like, "Hey, here's my history," and then the doc said, in that rare instance, "Oh, hey, wait, what's that? You've got a glycol allergy or something like that." Well, I'm going to go ahead and say, don't do it. Maybe we could reduce VAERS and reduce actual harm and vaccine hesitancy. And then maybe then we could actually solve this problem. But you know what, man? The entire time we've been going through this COVID thing, we're like chickens running around with our
That's
with our
the
heads
thing.
cut off.
What we need to avoid is panic. That is the number one problem. And I think we talked about this in March of 2020, Tim, you and I. The real danger that we face as a society is panic. If we do this right and we do it safely, things should be at least better, I would imagine, or the best they can be.
Bro, I don't even know anymore. All right, look, there's a video. There's a video of illegal immigrants being just like walked through the southern border. 40 Border Patrol agents this year caught COVID.
Wow.
A 900% increase in COVID cases among illegal immigrants. And I'm just sitting here like, bro, look, the people who watch this show are not dumb people. They're often correcting us. They're like, "Tim, this is what you got wrong." I get emails all the time. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. How am I supposed to be like this voice of reason when I'm like, we really got to, everyone's got to pitch in, go to your doctor, make sure you find out what's right for you. And if you can't get that vaccine, and then they're like, "But Tim, they're just opening the security gates and walking people through that are sick." And I'm like, man, like, I don't know what to tell you, dude.
Even more reason to be careful and focus, talk to doctors and do things.
Take care of your own health.
Know?
That's first and foremost. You know what's really funny is I think I figured out exactly why they're mad about the talk to your doctor thing. Because it's like deontology versus utilitarianism, which I reference every so often. And it's the collective left are very much like for the collective good, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Right.
Whereas deontology it's very kind of broad, but the general idea is, each action is its own action, right? Don't take immoral actions against an individual. And it's not so much about the outcome, it's about the action you take. So my attitude is kind of like, I wouldn't want to sacrifice anybody to any kind of risk factor. But I would also I also recognize like, okay, there may be risks, you know what I mean? So how about we just make sure everyone is as informed as possible? So I say each individual, don't get your advice from people like me. You find a good doctor who knows a lot about this. You ask them specific questions to make sure that everything you're concerned about with your health is covered. And then if they say, here's what you got to do, you take their advice. If they prescribe you something, you say, okay, I do it all the time. But I think the left gets mad because they're utilitarian. They don't want individuals to be taken care of, I guess. They don't focus on the act against the individual. They don't care. They want the hard numbers for the large group and the percentages of people who get shuffled under or left behind. They just don't care about.
Well, that's a reasonable way, the way that you put it. But the funny thing about what you just said, and then also what you said earlier about the panic about all of these lockdowns, is that, and the fact that they're now closing these restaurant stores in California, because somebody got the Delta variant of COVID, is that we already knew, based on the vaccine people's own data, that you could still get COVID from the vaccine, and then the COVID may be less effective, but you could still die. So
the vaccine may be less effective.
The vaccine may be less effective. So you know what, somebody got hurt from COVID, from the Delta variant, but that's still within the realm of possible outcomes. It's still an entirely reasonable outcome as to what happened, and you shouldn't make a completely panicked move because of that.
What they're saying now is that, for one, they're saying almost all of the cases and deaths are among people who are not vaccinated. Right. And we're still seeing a lot of stories about people who are getting it and are vaccinated. But, I always try to tell people, be careful about what the media highlights. You know what I mean? It's the scaling problem, right? Because there's so much media and there's so many people. Of course, if you give out 360 million doses or something like that, 336, you're going to get a large amount of adverse reactions, relatively large, depending on what your perspective is. And then news outlets are going to start snatching that up and writing about every single possible one. So it's that's why I'm like, just talk to your doctor, because they might be like, look at this chart. You know what I mean?
Right. It's kind of on the media not to panic society, because these shutdowns were really only because we didn't want to overload the hospitals in the beginning. And it was only going to be 15 days just to make sure we could handle this what we thought would be a mass influx of patients, which turned out, I think, as far as I know, we never really had that mass, hospital overrun that we thought we would.
Some places. There are videos of like people who go around. They were going around during the height of the pandemic and finding empty hospitals. But I think people misunderstood that it was like key areas were absolutely overloaded. Now, as for, New York, we know that there were some patient issues at hospitals in New York. And so Cuomo decided he would just murder people instead of actually utilizing the Mercy or the Javits Center. So he was warned, if you put sick people in nursing homes, you'll kill all these old people. And he was like, whatever. Because if you were to put them in the Mercy or the Javits Center, I think the Mercy had like 1 bed used and the Javits was at 30%. So we did set up this great, amazing center. Like, we're really worried about this. And he was like, meh.
Did you ever find out why he didn't use the hospitals?
I mean, in my opinion, it's because it would have made Trump look really good. Oh. But here's what they're saying. They're saying right now because people didn't get vaccinated. And this, I'm not entirely sure if this makes sense, but this is what they're saying. Because people didn't get vaccinated, then transmissibility was still running rampant between people among people who were not vaccinated, which resulted in mutations, which resulted in a more vaccine-resistant strain, which somewhat reduces the efficacy of these vaccines. And now you're getting fully vaccinated people who are getting sick with Delta, because I think they said it was like 88%. But the thing I doesn't quite make sense. I'm not quite sure that actually makes sense, because YouTube actually has a rule that you cannot say the vaccine prevents COVID. Like, that's actually in YouTube's rule book. Huh. So I'm like, well, if the vaccine wasn't ever 100%, then people could still get COVID. It could still mutate and still become vaccine resistant. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? You know what? Look, I can't speak to the science on this one for sure. We had Dr. Chris Martinson on the show. He made his case in the Members Only podcast. But we did pull up scientific journals, like studies that contradicted even what he was saying. And I'm like, people are going to pick and choose what they trust and what they want to believe. Plus, you've got the censorship of communist YouTube to deal with. I honestly have no idea. That's why I'm like, don't come to me for advice. But I can't say one thing. When you're ushering people through the border, the Biden administration, and not doing anything about it, I don't think they're serious at all. I really don't think they care.
I am inclined to agree. And you mentioned earlier about them being utilitarian, but I'm not sure that you can look at the way that those Texas Democrats left the state with 0 masks and who are now going back and spreading COVID among their own people. And I don't think that you can look at the border and say that they actually truly care about the good of the whole when they're actively promoting policies that make it possible for 900% increases in COVID cases at the border. That's absolute insanity to me.
They don't care.
They don't care.
So when Mitch McConnell's like, we're going to go back to the way things were in 2020, it's like, well, I guess so, because not like anybody in the government has any idea what's going on.
When we said the 900% increase of border COVID cases, is that like gone from 1 to 9, or is that like...
No, it was like 14 to 190 something or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, that's a good point, Ian.
Yeah.
Because we did see 188,000 people cross the border this month alone.
Yeah, we've already hit 1 million this year so far. It's only June, and by the end of the year, we're going to have 2 million. So that's exciting.
So 180,000, you said, crossed the border?
188, I think.
And 180 cases out of 188,000 people?
I'm not entirely sure if that's if that number is pertaining to all of the people who came through.
Be healthy, friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.